Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Shri Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki Shri Shivara Krishna Gopi Govindana Shyam Kunda Radha Kundi Giri Govindana ki Shri Vrindavan Charanam ki Shri Naradi Mai Puram ki Shri Jagannath Puram ki Tulasi Devi ki Bhakti Devi ki Gangamai ki Chamunamai ki Harinam Sankirtan Mahajal ki Samvera Bhaktavinda ki Vitai Gaur Sitanath Premanandi All glories to the Samudavati All glories to the Samudavati All glories to the Samudavati All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
He's going to do that.
Yayam Nalakshase Mudhadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yata Maya Javani Kachanam Agyadokshajamadhyayam Nalakshase Mudhadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yata Maya Javani Kachanam Agyadokshajamadhyayam Nalakshase Mudhadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yata
Maya Janikachanam Ajnadokshajamabhyayam Nalakshase Mudhadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yata Maya Janikachanam Ajnadokshajamabhyayam Nalakshase Mudhadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yatha 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 Maya Janikachanam Ajnadokshajamabhyayam Nalakshase Mudhadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yatha.
Translation: Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. Translation with repetition. Being beyond the range
of
limited sense perception, You are the eternally irreproachable factor.
You are the eternal irreproachable factor,
Covered by the curtain
covered by the curtain
of diluting energy.
of deluding energy.
You are invisible
You are invisible
to the foolish observer,
to the foolish observer,
exactly as an actor dressed as a player
exactly as an actor dressed as a player
is not recognized.
is not recognized.
Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna affirms that thus they deride Him. The same is confirmed herein by Queen Kunti. The less intelligent persons are those who rebel against the authority of the Lord. Such persons are known as asuras. The asuras cannot recognize the Lord's authority. When the Lord Himself appears amongst us as Ram, Nrsimha, Varaha, or in His original form as Krishna, He performs many wonderful acts which are humanly impossible. As we shall find in the 10th canto of this great literature, Lord Sri Krishna exhibited His humanly impossible activities even from the days of His lying on the lap of His mother. He killed a Putana witch, although she smeared her breast with poison, just to kill the Lord. The Lord sucked her breast like a natural baby, and He sucked out her very life also. Similarly, He lifted the Govardhan hill, just as a boy picks up a frog's umbrella, and stood several days continuously, just to give protection to the residents of Vrindavan. These are some of the superhuman activities of the Lord described in the authoritative Vedic literatures, like the Puranas, Itihasas, histories, and Upanishads. He has delivered wonderful instructions in the shape of the Bhagavad Gita. He has shown marvelous capacities as a hero, as a householder, as a teacher, and as a renouncer. He is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such authoritative personalities as Vyas, Devala, Asita, Narada, Madhva, Shankara, Ramanuja, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Bhakti Saranta Saraswati, and all other authorities of the line. He Himself has declared as much in many places of the authentic literatures. And yet there is a class of men with demoniac mentality who are always reluctant to accept the Lord as the supreme absolute truth. This is partially due to their poor fund of knowledge, and partially due to their stubborn obstinacy, which results from various misdeeds in the past and present. Such persons could not recognize Lord Sri Krishna even when He was present before them. Another difficulty is that those who depend more on their imperfect senses cannot realize Him as the Supreme Lord. Such persons are like the modern scientists. They want to know everything by their experimental knowledge, but it is not possible to know the Supreme Person by imperfect experimental knowledge. He is described herein as adhokshaja, or beyond the range of experimental knowledge. All our senses are imperfect. We claim to observe everything and anything, but we must admit that we can observe things under certain material conditions only, which are also beyond our control. The Lord is beyond the observation of sense perception. Queen Kunti accepts this deficiency of the conditioned soul, especially of the woman class, who are less intelligent. For less intelligent men, there must be such things as temples, mosques, or churches, so that they may begin to recognize the authority of the Lord and hear about Him from authorities in such holy places. For less intelligent men, this beginning of spiritual life is essential, and only foolish men decry the establishment of such places of worship, which are required to raise the standard of spiritual attributes for the mass of people. For less intelligent persons, bowing down before the authority of the Lord, as generally done in the temples, mosques, or churches, is as beneficial as it is for the advanced devotees to meditate on Him by active service. So again, Maya Javani Kachchana Agyada Shajam Avyayam Lakshase Mudhadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yatha. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasman Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnuparaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimati Jayapataka Swamini Tiramine. Nama Acharya Paraya Nitai Kripapadayine Gaurakatarandaya Virgavatayine. Nama Om Vishnuparaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tiramine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachayine Nivishesha Chunyavari Paschatya Rishitayine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum nangayate girim yakipadamaham bande. Shri Gurum Dinitaranam Paramanandamaram Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So Queen Kunti is saying, this is the second verse in her prayers, yes? So she's saying here, she's praying directly to the Lord when he's leaving Dwarka. Very heartfelt prayers, very famous prayers. She knew he was the Lord. She's his aunt. He's in a very exalted position. She's praying to him, pointing out how he's beyond the range of sense perception. He's adhokshaja. And Prabhupada mentions in the first line, the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna affirms that less intelligent persons mistake him to be an ordinary man like us. Which verse is this? It's in chapter 9. Avajananti mamudha. What is the next one?
Manushim
tanamashritam param bhavam jananto hamabhutamaheshwaram. So Krishna says like this also, that foolish persons, they deride me when I descend in human-like form, but they do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. So Queen Kunti is pointing out here that Krishna, he's beyond the range of our material senses. By our material senses, we cannot understand the Lord, but rather he reveals himself to us by his mercy, by his sweet will, when he wants to. We cannot demand. There's a nice verse about this in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anyone knows that verse? Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Navavat Krayamandriyai Sevan Jivada Swayameva Sparatyada. And the meaning?
Krishna cannot be known by our dull material senses. He is only available through our tongue when we chant his names and then accept his prasadam.
Correct, yeah. We cannot understand the Lord by our material senses. He's beyond the range of our material senses. But when he's pleased, he reveals himself to us. And so we take our material senses, beginning with the tongue, and we engage those in Krishna's service. This is what we do. And then when he's pleased, he reveals. So it's a process of revelation. So this is very important to understand that in this material world, we're very proud. We have these bodies, and we're very proud of our mind, our intelligence, our sensory abilities. And then we want to understand God in this way. Of course, we do need to use our senses. It's just like even in that verse, it says, we cannot understand the Lord with our senses, but we have to use our senses by engaging them in Krishna's service to please his senses. Normally, the normal way in this world is that we use our senses to try to please our own senses, or the senses of our family members, or a community, or even the whole nation if one is very altruistic. But it's all on the basis of sense gratification. Idea in the material world, people are under the conception, I am this body. But as Krishna very emphatically points out in the Bhagavad Gita, and as Prabhupada stressed so many times over and over again, we are not this body. It's the first point in spiritual life. We are not this body. We are spirit soul. It's different than the body. And the real ananda, the real happiness that everyone is searching after, that comes from the soul. It comes from Krishna. Krishna, he's the reservoir of all the spiritual happiness, of all spiritual pleasure. So everyone's looking for that, but they're looking in the wrong way. They're looking to obtain that by satisfying their material senses, or the material senses of their loved ones. They don't know that that doesn't actually provide, it provides a little bit of material happiness, and then along with the material happiness is also material distress. They come hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. So, and actually what material happiness and material distress we're going to get in this lifetime is already predetermined by our previous activities. The karma, it goes for 100 lives, it carries over. Like this. So better to not just let what come, come what may. Whatever we've done in our past, we're getting the result of it, whether it's good or bad, let it come. We cannot stop it. So better, let's engage our senses in pleasing Krishna, trying to please Krishna's senses. And then when he's pleased, then as described, then he reveals himself to us. Like this. So we'll go on a little bit more in the purport. Prabhupada is mentioning here that the less intelligent persons are those who rebel against the authority of the Lord. Such persons are known as asuras. The asuras cannot recognize the Lord's authority. Like this. So this is the condition of so many persons today. They do not want to recognize any authority. They want to be free to do whatever they want. And they think this is freedom. But what does Krishna call the regular principles? He calls them the regular principles of freedom. That by actually restraining our senses from engaging in the sensory activity, not entirely, of course, we're in the world, we have to live, but by restraining them to a large degree from what so much people engage in to try to find happiness, by restraining from those things and by engaging in spiritual activities, then we actually become free. They look at people who are restraining their senses in the name of religion, and they say, oh, they're denying themselves. They're so restricted. It's like they're putting themselves in prison. They're not free. But we are free. We do whatever we like. But they don't know that actually the result of everything they're doing is just suffering. The result of letting the senses just go where they like is that one becomes in a very degraded situation. Everything becomes very chaotic. That the Lord, He gives these rules and regulations, He calls them regular principles of freedom, so the soul can experience actual freedom, come to the transcendental platform. As Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, there's the different modes of material nature. There's ignorance, there's passion, there's goodness, and above that there's Shuddha Sattva, the transcendental platform. So unless we control our senses, there's no question of coming to the liberated platform, the Shuddha Sattva platform. And on that platform, one experiences actual freedom. On the lower platform, even if they're engaging in so many sensory activities which they think are giving them happiness, they become a slave to those activities. They become a slave to their senses. They cannot control. They think I'm free, but they're actually enslaved. Or one who can control his senses, he is actually free. So it goes the opposite of what people think. People think by controlling the senses that you are like being in prison. You're so restricted. You're just denying what is the essence of what life is all about. But it's the opposite. Of course, it's not just controlling the senses. It's controlling the senses and then engaging them in Krishna's pleasure. And then Krishna's so kind that He gives also sense gratification. He gratifies the senses of His devotees, but in a spiritual manner, not in a degraded manner. So the devotees are also enjoying. Actually, they're the only ones who are really enjoying. Enjoyment is meant for the devotee. And everyone is ultimately a devotee. It's just they don't know. They're covered over. So then they need to be taught. Because they're being misdirected. They're being misdirected. The whole civilization is advertising and promoting, and so the whole system is geared towards this wrong direction. So they need to be misdirected, which is a long-term process. It doesn't happen overnight. And very, very few persons come forward at a time to take interest. But the long-term vision is there, is that the society needs to move in a different direction. So somehow or other, one by one, this effort needs to be made. Again, educational, so we'll move on a little bit here. So the Lord Himself appears amongst us as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, or in His original form as Krishna. He performs many wonderful acts which are humanly impossible. As we shall find in the 10th canto of this great literature, Lord Shri Krishna exhibited His humanly impossible activities. Even from the days of His lying in the lap of His mother, He killed the Putana witch, although she smeared her breast with poison just to kill the Lord. The Lord sucked her breast like a natural baby, and He sucked out her very life also. Similarly, he lifted the Govardhan hill just as a boy picks up a frog's umbrella, and stood several days continuously just to give protection to the residents of Vrindavan. So this was very amazing, that when Indra was showering, not just rain, but like enough hail and rain and thunderstorm to kill, basically, all of the residents of Vrindavan. Then Krishna, he was not worried at all. Of course, the residents of Vrindavan were completely freaking out. And what did they naturally do? Krishna! They called out to Krishna. What does the devotee do when they call to Krishna? So then Krishna, what did he do? He picked up Govardhan hill, not with his right hand, with the left hand, the weaker hand. And not with the pinky. What was it? The pinky. On his left hand. And then of course they're looking, there's this huge hill, he's a 7-year-old boy. And they're looking, we cannot come into the hill. You're a 7-year-old boy, you drop, and we'll all be finished. Of course they're amazed at how is he lifting it all in the first place. But then they're getting so pelted, they have no choice. So they go under, and they're under the hill for 7 days and 7 nights. And this is very unique because normally in Krishna's pastimes, then he's with his, he's at home in the morning, right? And his servants are helping him get dressed. His mother comes, of course, and his mother, right, comes and wakes him up. And then his servants are helping him get dressed. And then Radharani actually comes and cooks breakfast for him every morning. And then he's served breakfast by Rohini and Yashoda, like this. And then they see him off, his parents, they see him off as he meets with his cowherd boyfriends, and he's going ready to go off and tend to the cows. Then during the day, he's with the cowherd boys, and Radharani goes out to Govardhan on the plea of worshipping the sun god with some of her girlfriends. And then they also meet with Krishna. And so he's having, then again at night, then he comes back home. And then he meets again with Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. So at different times of the day he has passed. And here under Govardhan for 7 days and 7, all these personalities, they're all with Krishna. And also it was in such a way, he was there because he's the Lord, he's the supreme mystic. He was there, and there's so many persons, Govardhan Hill, of course now it's smaller, it's been shrinking, but it was, the king of mountains. And everyone was under the hill. So you can imagine, he's there, Krishna's in the center, and they're all around him. But by his mystic power, everyone, even though, if you're in a crowd and someone's in the middle and you're in the back, and you cannot see. But Krishna is not like that. Everything is in perfection. So he's there, he's in the middle. Those who are right next to him, they can see. And those who are way back, they also feel like he's right in front of me. They can also see. And even though, if you're looking one way, then the people who are on all sides, they all felt that Krishna's looking only at me. And not only this, it was day and night. There was no, they're under the hill, there's no sleeping, The day and night, for 7 days continuously, they had the association. So they were in ecstasy. This never happens. Even in Vrindavan Leela, where they're all so fortunate that never happens. They're constantly. So for 7 days, and so they were complete ecstasy. They're like this. So Krishna, he does, of course, it was protect the residents of Vrindavan from material danger, right? But really, so that on one platform, and because he's the Bhaktavatsal, he protects the devotees. He takes his vow, and he does that. But also over and above that, he was protecting the devotees from the danger of Indra's hailstorm. He was also enabling this, facilitating this pastime where they could be with him in such an intimate way for so long, such an extended period, without any break. So like this, Krishna, he's the reservoir of all these wonderful pastimes. So we'll go on a little here. These are some of the superhuman activities of the Lord as described. He has delivered wonderful instruction in the shape of Bhagavad Gita. He has shown marvelous capacities as a hero, as a householder, as a teacher, as a renouncer. Okay, so now, and yet he himself has declared that he is the supreme person. And yet there is a class of men with demoniac mentality who are always reluctant to accept the Lord as the supreme absolute truth. This is partially due to their poor fund of knowledge and partially due to their stubborn obstinacy, which results from various misdeeds in the past and present. So this is stated also in the Bhagavad Gita, that unless one is free from their sinful activities, they cannot come to understand the Lord. So like this, by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, is so powerful, Nam Avatar, the incarnation of the Lord in sound, that it wipes out our sin. and by chanting and also by engaging in devotional service. Of course, the mass of people, like it mentions here, says that people are reluctant to accept the Lord due to different reasons. One is because of their stubborn obstinacy, which results from various misdeeds in the past and present. So because of their past misdeeds, their past sinful activities, that's not like a barrier between them. And many people are not ready to come forward and engage in devotional, start chanting Hare Krishna, engage in devotional service to Krishna. But the devotees are so kind, they go out and they give people an opportunity to engage in Krishna's service. They go out preaching, they go out on Harinam Sankirtan, they go out on book distribution, somehow or other giving people a chance to hear the holy name, come in contact with Krishna, begin doing some devotional service to, even they don't know exactly what it is they're doing, what it is they're hearing. But this helps diminish the reactions to their sinful activities and helps them come closer to Krishna, without which there's no hope for them. There's no hope for them, there's no hope for all of us if we don't revive our original loving relationship with Krishna. We have no, like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, yesterday was his appearance day, that he said this world is no place for a gentleman. And he said it's simply a place of the cheaters and the cheated. So we have no business in this world. It's not, we should not try to make a comfortable place here. This is not our home. That's Krishna comes here. And why does he come here? He has his own abode in the spiritual world. So why does he need to come here and display and act his pastimes here? It's for our benefit only. Because people here, they speculate, is there a God? And if there is a God, what does he look like? And what does he do? And what is he like? And how can I get to know him? And all these things. So to eradicate all this speculation, Krishna personally comes. And he displays so many superhuman, so many wonderful activities, demonstrating that I am that supreme person, to eliminate all doubt or all speculation. So then once if someone comes to know, oh, this is who that person is, then what? And then we have to engage in his service. There's Sambandha, Abhideya, and Adhokshaja. So Sambandha means we reestablish our relationship with the Lord. And we understand, I'm of this body, I'm a soul, I don't belong here, I'm a servant of Krishna, I belong in the spiritual world. So I have to perform yajna to purify my existence here, so I can go back and be with him. Sambandha. And then Abhideya, then we have to engage in those spiritual activities. We have to chant Hare Krishna. We have to perform devotional service, worship the deity, prasadam, all these things associated with devotees. And then prayojana. We get the supreme result, the pure love for Krishna, which is already there in the heart. That's why Krishna made us. It's the only reason we exist. If we're trying for anything, of course, we have to work so that we can maintain body and soul together. But then over and above that, our real business is to try to get love for Krishna. That's who we really are. That's why Krishna made us. That's what we're made of. That's what our soul is made of. Just that it's covered over. So this process of devotional service and chanting Hare Krishna is to cleanse the soul of all this contamination, so we can get back to that. So people are averse to this, but the devotees can, even though they're averse to beginning the process, the devotees are very kind and merciful, and they go out of their way to give people a chance to come into Krishna's fold. So we'll continue a little bit. So such persons are like the modern scientists. They want to know everything by their experimental knowledge, but it is not possible to know the Supreme Person by imperfect experimental knowledge. He is described herein as adhokshaja, or beyond the range of experimental knowledge. All our senses are imperfect. We claim to observe everything and anything, but we must admit that we can observe things under certain material conditions only, which are also beyond our control. The Lord is beyond the observation of sense perception. So we have to be a little humble. Trinada pisuni chena tarora pisu ishnuna. Amanina amanadena kirtaniya sadahari. That Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that the devotee should take this one verse, the third verse of Shikshastakam, and string it around their neck. That by this humility, that whatever we may be or whatever we may have done, if we humble before ourselves before the Lord, then the Lord is very pleased by that one activity only. That we humble ourselves and admit, like it's being said, I don't know. I cannot understand just by my senses. We are very small, we are very insignificant. The Lord is very great. But if He's just looking for a little service with love and devotion, that's all. And that requires a little humility, because one who's proud, they won't do that. I mean, why should I serve? Others should serve me. Why should I be the servant? I want to be the master. This is the material disease, the material condition. But then by somehow or other taking it up, then one experiences, oh, this is actually much better. I feel much happier, because that is actually our natural position. That's our natural position. So if we adopt the position where we try to be the master, it's unnatural. It'll end in frustration. There's no way it can work. Krishna is the master. He's the one supreme master. And we cannot usurp his position. But if we somehow or other adopt the other position, then Krishna is very kind. He gives us a taste of how wonderful it is. And then when we taste how wonderful it is, then we want to do it more and more, like that. And then we want to bring others into the fold. Because they don't know. They don't know. The massive people, they don't know. It's almost unheard of, practically speaking. But somehow or other, so by tasting the nectar is the best way to be able to share it with others. Because then when people see, oh, this person has happiness that I don't have, then they want it. Then they'll ask, even we don't have to tell, they'll ask. Like this. So the best way for sharing is by first tasting it ourselves, this nectar of Krishna consciousness. But anyway, as Queen Kunti is pointing out here, this is that Krishna, he's beyond the range of our material senses, and so we have to be a little humble, and accept that by his revelation only he can become known to us, and in that mood we should humbly try to submit ourselves to him, ask for his mercy, engage in his service, not complain, right? When things turn wrong, the people who are averse to the Lord, when things turn wrong in their life, then they blame the Lord. That how can people say there's a God? If there is a God, why would he do this to me? Like this. But the devotee, they say, no, suffering, nobody likes to. Of course, that prayer will come later. Queen Kunti had some very exalted prayers about suffering. Nobody likes to go through suffering. But when Krishna does that, puts the devotees through suffering, it's different than when he puts other people through suffering. He's putting them through suffering in such a way that they become cured of the material disease. He's doing that to help them. And the devotee who's mature in their understanding, they understand this. And so they take it in a good spirit that, okay, the Lord has put me through this, let me take it. Let me not deviate in my devotion to the Lord, whatever he feels he knows best. Let me not think I know best. Again, back to humility. He knows best. He's putting me through this for a reason. So let me accept it. The more we accept what Krishna's putting us through, then the quicker we'll be out of it. The more we resist, then we haven't learned the lesson. Then the more, so it's like we're defeating ourselves by being resistant. So anyway, like this. The Lord is beyond the range of our material senses. We should be a little humble, engage in his service. So I want to stop a little bit ahead of time, just ask before the time is up, if there's any questions. Yes?
Sorry. So in the purport, there's a section where Prabhupada talks about being reluctant to serve the Lord due to our past misdeeds.
Mm-hmm.
When we're attempting to serve the Lord with a little bit of affection, and then, at least in myself, I'll experience almost daily, no, don't serve Krishna, within, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What are some, tips to kind of either push through that, or just kind of, I don't know, how to work with that old modus operandi of, being against surrendering when I'm actually trying to be a devotee?
Right, yeah, sometimes we just have to push ourselves through it. Like sadhana means that we don't necessarily want to do it, but out of duty, we do. So that's one part of it, just pushing ourselves. Also, association helps. Association of devotees helps very much. By being an associate, because what are devotees doing? They're serving. So if you're association of devotees, then what do you do with devotees? You serve. So then naturally there's a natural flow of service. Kirtan also helped like anything. Like when Prabhupada came, how did he attract the devotees? Also, well, Kirtan and Prasadam both actually. But Kirtan, he attracted devotees by Kirtan. Right? The devotees, they would experience the ecstasy of being in the Kirtan. And then, you want to serve by, that brings, the Kirtan especially is very powerful in that way. Prasadam, of course, also. Preaching, also. By preaching, by helping other people in their devotional service, helping other people become closer to Krishna, we get forgiven for our past offenses. It's a secret. And Prabhupada said from the Kanishta platform, the lower platform, it's very dangerous. At any moment you can fall down. So he encourages devotees how it's so important to come up to the Madhyam platform. Madhyam platform, the medium, means preaching, making friendship, also friendship, making friends with the devotees. Because we push each other. If we're feeling like that old nature's coming up, then if we're someone else, with someone else and they're feeling it more positive at that moment, then it rubs off on us, right? So by having good association, we become like the people we associate. So choosing our association, that's one of the most important things we can do with our whole life. Actually, Krishna consciousness is about choosing association. We're choosing what we chant, we're choosing to associate with Krishna. And then we choose to associate with the spiritual master and with the devotees. We make that conscious choice. So, one way or another, by pushing ourselves, by getting good association, by being in the kirtan. Prabhupada said the kirtan is the safest place in the material world. Kirtan. Dive in and take shelter in many different ways. Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, Prabhu.
In one lecture, Prabhupada says, in devotee, they have a problem. They thank Krishna more. Their thinking is that I deserve more suffering, I supposed to suffer more, but Krishna is so kind. He has minimized our suffering, and it's very less. And they become more sincere, and in any situation, they doesn't give up this service, devotional service to Krishna. So in that context, Prabhupada says, like a person, with the son of rich person, automatically he inherits all the wealth. So similarly, a person who doesn't give up Krishna conscious and devotional activities in any circumstances, Prabhupada says, in this life, with 100% guarantee, he will come back to God.
Yes.
So,
And actually that's in the prayer by Lord Brahma, right? And then who was it? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I believe, said that one particular prayer which you were basically just quoting of Lord Brahma, where the prayer where Lord Brahma is saying that one who tolerates all of the sufferings that naturally come in the material world, no, they cannot be avoided. One who tolerates them without complaining, and he never gives up his service, that their entrance into the kingdom of God becomes his rightful claim. Just like a son of a wealthy father inherits the riches of his father. What does the son have to do in order to claim those riches? Who can say?
He has to be just like a son.
He has to stay alive. That's all. Right? As long as you stay alive. So like this.
Prabhupada says, who can check that? Who can check to have that wealth? Nobody can check that. So similarly, he says, a person in all circumstances, he doesn't give up the service to Krishna. So nobody can check his progress towards Krishna consciousness, and he will go back.
Right. He doesn't give up in any circumstance. And then, as Lord Brahma says, the kingdom of God becomes his rightful claim. And Prabhupada used to quote that verse. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I believe it was him, said that particular prayer of Lord Brahma, that particular verse, I pray that verse can become the foundation of my consciousness. So it's very important. This tolerating our misdeeds, like you said, without complaining, and never giving up our service. Then, guaranteed, like this. Yeah, it's a very important point, because the complaining tendency is so common. One of the biggest things we have to overcome. Is there any other question? How about from our students from Arcadia College? Michael, John, and oh, don't tell me, I forgot the Andreas. One of you has a question? No question? Okay.
If you don't receive any sense of euphoria when worshiping and following Krishna, does that mean you're doing it wrong?
Yes and no. In one sense, people ask, well, how do you, everybody says that their path is the truth. How do you know your path is the truth? You say, because it works. Like Prabhupada came and he said, if you chant Hare Krishna, we'll be happy. So we joined in the kirtan and we felt happier than we ever felt in our life. And so that reciprocation is there. So then, if one is performing devotional service with the proper attitude, then they'll taste that spiritual happiness. And if we do devotional service with not the proper attitude, then Krishna can hold back. So in one sense, yes, if that happiness is there and not there, that means you're doing something wrong. Although there are times when Krishna may, like especially when we first join, and Krishna sort of pours on the ecstasy, at least many devotees have had that experience, seems almost universal, pours on the ecstasy like super thick to convince us this is true and to attract us and sort of establish us, set a foundation. But then later he may hold back on some of that. And that is not necessary, in that situation is not necessarily, like they call the dark night of the soul, right? That it's not necessarily that you're doing anything wrong, but he's just testing you. Okay, now before I gave you so much happiness and now you want to do everything. Now I hold back. Do you still, like you said, will you still do? So it's yes and no. It can be, but in general we say that if you're not feeling the happiness, that means something is not wrong in your mentality. So we have to check our mentality. Yeah, because we should be experiencing the spiritual happiness. Okay, any last question? Okay, well thank you very much. I think time is up. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.